Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Good Friday morning, Bryan College Station. Welcome to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I'm Ryan Brauninger, the hacking and always derelict Olin Buchanan to my left this morning has been full of it before the show.
No.
Lots of useless trivia, lots of stories, lots of personal advice about marriage and how to deal with women.
I just said that when your wife or your girl, and we have a couple of ladies in the room, and they'll probably back me up on this.
I doubt
when
it.
When she's venting, you know, like her job or some frustration, don't try to fix it. Don't give her advice, because all she wants to do is vent. All she wants you to do is say, gosh, that's awful. I get it, man. Is there anything I can do?
We should have every Friday, there should be a segment in the 8 o'clock hour, the Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse, CC Creations, Maroon U. Maroon never looks so good. There should be a segment within this NASCAR of an hour that you provide life advice to the young people in the office. And maybe we'll do it over there at the Holistic Planning Cool Zone. Why is that beneficial? Why is the holistic planning beneficial?
Well, for several reasons. First of all, they can help you with your investments. They can.
I need that.
They can get you ready for, help you with your taxes. Man,
Tax season coming.
That's already here. I'm already stressing about that.
I saw you balancing your checkbook this morning.
I was, and I was paying some taxes.
We have some young college interns in here. Maybe Luke probably doesn't even. This is going to be too old school for him. Do y'all know what balancing a checkbook looks like?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I've seen my grandparents do it.
Well, you're going to have to learn this.
Yeah.
They do it all online now, dude.
Yeah, my budget is in my notes app. That's how I keep track.
I like to do anyway. You know what? I like to.
But holistic planning.
Cool Zone, they'll help you with that. They won't help you do your checkbook, but they'll help you with your taxes, and they'll help you with your estate planning.
Over there in the...
And they'll get you all hooked up if you want to invest in pro sports.
That's right. Go to investinprosports.com today for more information on holistic planning. We got a jam-packed show here on a Friday morning. I mentioned Olin with us for the entire Go Hour. We're going to have LSU basketball analyst TJ Brown joining us at the bottom of the hour, 8:35. Billy Liucci coming in from 9 to 10:30, a little bit of an altered schedule for Liucci on a Friday. From 9 to 10:30, Billy Liucci comes in studio. We'll talk a lot of Aggie basketball, a lot of football stuff going on, and we'll see where else the conversation wants to go. You might want to be on call when Billy's in here, because if I remember the last time that I hosted and Billy was on the show with me, we called you from upstairs.
I got the call, bring in the right-hander.
Out of the bullpen, and you were upstairs, and you came down to, we were talking about John Voight's career, who is a co-star of yours in the movie Varsity Blues. If you were unaware, Olin is actually in one of the more popular high school football movies of all time called Varsity Blues. He gets a check every year because it's syndicated.
Every 3 months.
He gets checks because it's played on TV, and so he gets, how much are those checks worth?
Well, it depends. They all change. You know, it depends on how many people watched it, how many.
Just ballpark it for us.
Oh, it's always four figures.
4 figures.
Well, there's a decimal point.
Okay.
So it's usually about, about $9, $10. Okay. Those California state taxes kill them.
They kill you. But last time that we were talking about John Voight's career and how closely intertwined y'all could have been. And then you made an all-time reference about the movie Anaconda.
All you said was say, should you have been in Anaconda, the movie Anaconda? And I said, I could play the title role in Anaconda.
It doesn't, Nick.
I'm a big-ass snake.
Nick, it doesn't take any goading with him on a Friday morning. You know
no, it shouldn't. That's what we love about OB.
I'm thankful for us that, first of all, thankful that Nick is
Anaconda. Look at those pythons. You could be Anaconda.
Thankful for Nick for pulling the strings behind the show while the B team fills in for the last 2 days. I think Richard is hosting. Thank God. Richard's hosting next week. Thank God he was not here this morning.
And why is Richard hosting next week?
I don't know where David's at.
Where are you going to be at?
I'm going to preview that with our bumper music today. Okay. So if you're listening to us on the radio, the bumper music will get you ready for my vacation, which I leave on Sunday. But I have a lot of stuff to do between now and then. Most notably, most top of mind right now is this radio show. After Billy Liucci gets done with us at 10:30, John Pugliese will come on and join us via the Boss Firearms Hotline to talk about this Aggie basketball game against the LSU Tigers tomorrow night. What time does that game start?
7:30.
7:30 tomorrow night at Reed Arena. I don't know why I thought it was a 4 o'clock tip. A&M's been getting a lot of late tips.
It just kills me. Now it's Saturday night's not so bad, but those 8 o'clock tips during the week, and I'm 63. Dude, first of all, I'm usually asleep by 9.
Texas, Oklahoma started at 9 o'clock.
And I didn't watch it. I usually sleep, by 10. And then I have to get up early, for the show. And
you have to get up early for what?
I go to the gym early,
Does that make you a better human than other people?
No, it just, it just makes me sweaty.
It does you were sweaty in here yesterday, and I had to call Josh, one of the owners, because I didn't know that he was now the owner of the temperature gauge in here.
He's
the temperature czar. Is that what you're about
to say? The temperature czar. The thermostat czar.
After you left.
Keeper of the thermostat.
We had a couple of the interns sitting here yesterday after you left, because I noticed that you were sweaty in the show. I was like, Olin's, his brow is actually sweating. And then I started to get sweaty. I was like, he was right. It is hot. So Josh comes down here, lowers the temperature, and then all of a sudden all the interns were cold. Can't please everybody.
Yeah, most of our interns are female or, effeminate guys. I'm not talking about you, Luke. No, I'm joking. But most of them are female. And in my experience, women just seem to be, women just seem to get colder than men. How many times have you been out with your wife?
I feel like I'm the substitute teacher in this thing. When David's here, Olin tries to behave as much as he can.
No, I don't.
He knows David's going to send the report card to Irma. Irma's going to check it.
Irma watches the show every morning.
If you don't have satisfactory, if you don't have S's next to your conduct, then you get in trouble.
I've never gotten an S in conduct.
Well, okay. So what was your best? Like N, needs improvement?
Probably H for hopeless.
Hopeless. Well, whatever it is, I know that you try to stay on your P's and Q's with David, because Irma will magnetize that report card to the refrigerator to remind you every day that either you need improvement or you've done a good job with your behavior. And then I come in.
Who do you think runs the house in my house?
I know who runs the house. I've heard plenty of stories.
Of course I do.
Yeah. So she's taking, now you're in trouble. She's texting.
She says hi.
Okay.
Honey. Hi, honey. She knows who's in charge.
But when David's not here and I'm in, it's like the substitute teacher walks in and like it's movie day. Like I'm going to walk in with the TV on the rollers, right? And it's going to be, we're going to watch National Geographic movies, and Olin's going to text during the whole class and cut up.
He's got to have his ringer on like 110% volume.
If I don't, I won't hear it.
That's Luke Evangelist in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Luke, I got a very pretty printout from Matthew Dawson. Did you have a hand in this?
No. I mean, in the design features, yes, I would say I'm very artistic, but Matthew Dawson is the brainchild behind it.
Well, he's the brainchild behind most of the things that you do.
That even get done at this office.
And, I got real questions about, these. You've been putting out good articles. You've been tweeting like crazy, but you've been putting out good articles with good data and good intel. And I got more than half a mind to think that Matthew Dawson is actually the architect of all of those articles.
That is the biggest compliment I think you've ever given me. If you think Matthew Dawson is behind my tweets, then...
Not your tweets. I don't think he has time for your tweets. But I do think that you probably hit him up. Like, y'all have this... It's you and him and maybe one other person on a group chat that is as nerdy as you guys are with the numbers.
Right.
And y'all just talk about this stuff, and you get... Like, you are like... You know how to prod him. Like, kind of like how Richard knows how to prod Olin or McGee knows how to prod Olin. You know how to prod Dawson to get good numbers out of him, like through a text chain.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, like if I ask him this, he's going to give me all this information, and then I put it in my article. I'm the hero.
I actually have a confession to make. I am 2 Matthew Dawsons in a trench coat. You're right. Matthew Dawson is running the show.
His facial hair has been a subject of conversation, as is yours a lot.
I'm glad the heat is off me.
Well, it's not necessarily. I think you creeped out one of the interns this morning with your mustache.
What?
But it's not your fault. It's just you walking around like that.
Right.
Matthew Dawson got it pretty good yesterday from the fan show.
Did he?
He walked in. He was very prepared, as always, for his prize picks. And so we had to go over those, and he walked in, and they started doing, like they said he looked like a Frenchman. And so they started talking.
He's a musketeer.
Yeah. Were musketeers always French?
I don't know. No.
Well, there's one. I'm the second one. Who's the third musketeer?
In that trio, who is it?
Cade
Bickham.
Bickham. Yeah. Boy.
You know, if
I saw that trio walk up, Nick, if you were in a dark alleyway and you saw those 3 musketeers walk up, you feel pretty good about getting out alive.
If I saw all 3 of them together, I would think, wait, they're doing a remake of Revenge of the Nerds?
This is a pretty good session here. We haven't talked one thing about A&M sports yet.
We'll get there.
We'll get there eventually. we have stuff on deck for the entire. So let's do this. We're going to go to a super early break, Nick. We good with that? Going to go really early break. We'll go along with this second segment. We've got TJ Brown at the bottom of the hour. We're going to get full bore into Texas A&M Sports Weekend. I had a little bit of football news come out. We probably need to speak about that. Aggie's continuing to search in the transfer portal. Obviously, they probably have some needs left at receiver, defensive tackle. We spoke about it a little bit yesterday. There was some news coming out yesterday about Micah Hudson. Maybe the Aggies have to get more aggressive at receiver. So a lot more to get to. We also have a number 1 ranked preseason baseball team that I know, Olin, you don't cover them, but you get excited to go watch them at Bluebell.
I like baseball now. I like A&M baseball. I couldn't care less about Major League Baseball, but I like A&M baseball.
All right, a lot to get to. We come back. TexAgs Live on a Friday morning. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
Rollo.
All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live. I promise you we're going to talk some Texas A&M sports this morning. I'm Ryan Brauninger in the host chair today, getting you ready for the weekend. Aggie basketball hosts LSU tomorrow night. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're inside the Rollo Insurance Studios. Don't forget, if you want to interact with the show, put the mustache man to work over there in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, 979-693-1150, 979-693-1150. Aggies and Tigers tomorrow on the hardwood, OB. And because we've got a truncated hour in terms of we have a guest in the middle of it, we got to run our mouths. So this is brought to you by Brazos Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store where you can find Brooks, On, and Hoka shoes located in Century Square below Star Cinema Grill in College Station. Love Brazos Running Company. I go get all my shoes there.
I bet you don't hear truncated used a lot in Nederland.
I have an advanced vocabulary for somebody from Southeast Texas, and
Hell yeah,
we are
you
also more refined because of the
refineries
than people from regular old East Texas. So we got a little bit more flavor, a little bit more pizzazz, a little bit more. Yeah, like I said yesterday, we're more cultured, well-rounded, all those things. Well, I'm
more girth, that's for sure.
What do you,
all that culture, huh? All that eating culture.
Yeah.
Down in.
What we're running our mouths. 3 things you want to see, Aggies and Tigers tomorrow.
Okay. I want to see the Aggies shoot better from the 3-point line than they did in the second half. In their last game. Now that doesn't mean they have to. I mean that.
Can we alternate these points? By the way,
yes, that sets the bar pretty low because they were 0 for 12 in the second half. But I want to see them shoot better from the 3-point line.
I want to see Pharrell Payne touch the ball on offensive possessions early in the shot clock. Throw the ball at the low post, especially. I guess has the report come out? The availability report come out
tonight?
Tonight.
Later.
Okay, I imagine Wade will probably be out. But we don't know.
This is the first one that actually matters. The first time he had this injury, he was out 14 days. It's been 14 days since the Texas game. This is the first injury report that's going to tell you something.
Well, if he is out, I think the ball has to get. I want to see the ball fit on to Pharrell Payne more.
Okay, I know this doesn't count as one, but what I want to see Wade Taylor back in the lineup. Now we can't. We all want that though. Again, I'm looking at the shooting aspect. I want to see them continue to shoot better at the foul line. A&M gets to the free throw line a lot. All right, let's get back that percentage up around 70% or better.
If Wade is out, I want to see the ball move from the point guard spot more efficiently. I mentioned throwing it into Pharrell Payne. I don't want to see the ball get stuck with Zurich or Manny deep in shot clocks.
Okay, and then
I think they're going to defend.
I want to see them get back to dominating the offensive boards.
That's a good
the way
one.
they typically do, because that's their recipe for success. Especially without Wade, but always is to play good defense, to offensive rebound, and get to the foul line a lot.
And I want to see. I want to sound like I'm being hypercritical of the next group of players because, but I think I want to see one of these guys play better, whether it be Manny, Henry, Jace Carter, get something from C.J. Wilson and Wilcher Anderson Garcia. I just want to see one of these guys I think there's more in the tank for every one of those guys I mentioned. I think there's better basketball in the tank for all of them.
Of those guys you mentioned right there, who's the guy that you think is most likely to take that leap and have that strong game you're looking for?
Manny.
Okay.
Because he's done it.
He's done it.
And last year down the stretch, he was so good. And so, they're all
he was dominant.
Luke, would you say Henry's playing better?
I mean, I'm looking at the stats. Oh, like compared to his career?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he's improved, but I still think there's more in there. Yeah. I think there's more in there for, obviously, Manny.
Anderson Garcia, I've seen him be much more productive than he's been lately. And I'm not putting him down, but I know that, like you said, there's more in the tank for Anderson.
Yeah, so that's what we want to see presented by Running Our Mouths by Brazos Running Company. We're going to continue with this basketball stuff, OB. Looking at LSU, I don't know how much you have.
Not much.
But they are without a really talented player of their own who went down right after the New Year, I believe.
I think it's around January 4th or something. I don't know if that's the actual date. Jalen Reed has a knee. I don't know what the exact. I don't know if it's an ACL or whatever, but he has a season-ending knee injury, and I think he was averaging about 12, 13 points a game.
Well, they have lost 3 of their last 4, 1-3 in SEC play, with their one win coming against Arkansas. And, the Razorbacks have really struggled under Cal so far in the conference. But this is an LSU team that I think, going in years past, I'm not a basketball follower where I could tell you all the LSU starters on their baseball team, but I could probably tell you 3 or 4 maybe players at all on their basketball team. I don't know anything about this group. And so I'm glad we've got TJ Brown coming on to maybe talk a little bit more about it, because these are, some freshman names, some young guys, and then some mixed in with some transfer portal. I just don't have a great feel for this LSU team. I know they've struggled.
Well, they're better than they were last year, and last year they beat A&M at Reed Arena. So there's that, and that was with Wade playing. The A&M, remember, they scored like 21 points in the second half. It was just a collapse. I expect that A&M is going to win this basketball game, but I don't expect that it's going to be easy, because this is a better LSU team than it's been.
You look at LSU's numbers. We go to Luke. What did you, when you started putting this stuff together and looking at LSU, what is some areas where you think they've been probably better than you thought?
Watching that Arkansas game, they were down by double digits and they came all the way back. It was like an extended, I want to say like 30 to 15 run that they had at the end of the game to come back and win. Offensively, they're actually pretty efficient. I know they're not the best team in the SEC, but in any other year, this is a pretty decent SEC team. They're just going to take a lot of hits with how deep the conference is. So this is a game that A&M should win. It's a good matchup for A&M. In terms of getting back to A&M's formula on the offensive glass, they're still a pretty good defensive rebounding team. They're top 25 in the country, but they're not Kentucky or an Alabama on the board. So,
well, I think what made Kentucky and Alabama, obviously they rebound the ball great, but I thought, and we talked about it with Logan yesterday a little bit, if you listen to the show, like those are just different levels of athlete.
Yeah,
like
100%.
A&M without Wade Taylor, it was going to be tough to match them player for player with Wade on the bench. If Wade doesn't play tomorrow, I think you're much closer in terms of overall talent to LSU. It may be a little bit ahead.
Maybe A&M can exploit this LSU defense, because if you're looking at the this handout that was given to us
by Matthew Dawson.
Yeah, you look at their game January 7th against Missouri. It tells me that they had some real defensive problems. They lost that game apparently 767 to 83.
Jeez, all that work you did made one typo. I'm looking at their schedule.
No, they're a capable team.
The problem with LSU is, like, where are they going to get their wins enough to get into the conversation and get in the NCAA tournament?
I don't think they're going to get in. I don't think they're going to
get in. So if the league gets a record in, the record would be what, 10?
10?
No, it would
11?
be like 12. Because there's been 11 before.
Okay, so if they get 12, there's 4 that aren't going to make it. Trying to find those 4 is still a little bit difficult. Oklahoma's
everybody's – the bad teams in the SEC are good. I think when they entered the SEC play, the worst team, I think, was South Carolina at 10-5. And South Carolina, don't they have a win over Georgia?
And they nearly beat
Auburn. They also beat Clemson at home when Clemson was top 25.
Yeah, so
even the bad teams can
that's what I'm saying.
knock off a ranked opponent.
The quote bad teams in the SEC are good.
And we think A&M's going to hover. We're hoping that A&M hovers around that 500 mark with Wade out. You know, and then you start. I think the key in this SEC slate for any team is, can you win 3 in a row? You win 3 in a row, you're setting yourself up to really put yourself on the plus side of the 500 mark, which what's going to win the league this year?
Well, I think A&M
13 wins,
13-5,
12, 12 wins might win it.
Yeah, 12-6 might win the league.
I think A&M with Wade Taylor is as good as anybody in the league. I mean, again, Alabama's probably the team, if not Auburn, that's picked to win it. And you played Alabama within what, 6 points?
Mm-hmm. Wait,
without Wade.
If Wade is back or when Wade is back, we're at the point now where it won't be you're back in the lineup full time. Like, he's going to have to get his legs back underneath him.
Yeah.
Like he's going to have to get he's lost some fitness clearly in this time of not being able to run as much.
Yeah, but he'll bounce back fast. Look, he's an elite athlete.
Like yourself.
Yes, like myself.
He hates admitting it.
I bounce back pretty fast.
There's a joke.
I don't know what to say to that.
Okay.
No,
the joke is that I'm an elite athlete. That's the joke.
Give him
that
30 more seconds, he would have had something.
But I'll say this: I think they're doing the right thing. Obviously, with Wade, it's best to bringing back a game too late than a game too soon, because I want Wade out there healthy in February
and March. Yeah, it's
and April.
The interesting dichotomy of the whole thing is we really don't know the severity of the injury.
Well, we hear the actual injury has never been officially announced. It's out there that it's a groin.
I wish we had a basketball insider that could have told us some stuff.
I even heard, if I'm not mistaken, on the Kentucky broadcast, one of the guys calling the game referenced it being a groin injury. And we've heard that, so I assume it's a groin injury.
There was that weird line in the game against Texas, and you were in the arena, so you didn't hear it, but I was watching on TV, where somebody caught Wade saying, "My knee feels like jelly."
Yeah, I heard that right when he left the game.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's nothing. I assume it's a groin, because that's what I've heard people on TV say. But then he says that about the knee. So whatever it is, again, be real careful with that guy, because I want him right in February and March, and then maybe they'll be me playing in April. Wouldn't that be fun?
When we come back, we will get a purple and gold perspective on this game tomorrow at Reed Arena. TJ Brown of the Baton Rouge Advocate, if I'm correct. Scott Rabelais put us in touch with TJ. He's going to come on with us via the Boss Firearms hotline, and we're going to talk Aggies, Tigers tomorrow at Reed Arena. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live on a Friday morning. Ryan Brauninger in the host chair with you today, the B-team version of the show. Olin Buchanan to my left. We continue the Go Hour with a special guest coming to us from Baton Rouge, the Advocate writer, TJ Brown, basketball analyst, talking all things Aggies and LSU Tigers tomorrow night at Reed Arena. 7:30 tip-off. TJ, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us this morning. Got no audio?
Come on, Nick.
Okay, now we got you. Now we got you. TJ. So, just your overall thoughts on this LSU team. We were talking earlier in the hour. Just it feels like maybe a team without a household name that LSU basketball has had in the past. But I also know that it's kind of a collection of transfer portal and young kids. But so, how do you feel like Coach McMahon's bunch has done up to this point in the season and the SEC slate?
Yeah, the LSU team is definitely a little bit different, a little weird. And I think even within the program, they're learning who they are as these games in the SEC keep rolling. So, yeah, LSU, they needed that Arkansas win, their first SEC win. They started 0-3, and they lost at home. They were the only SEC team that first weekend to get a home loss. Every other home team took care of business except for LSU in that first SEC sort of start to the year. But yeah, this LSU team wants Cam Carter, their starting shooting guard, their 17-point per game scorer, to be that household name. He's a Louisiana native. He's a transfer from Kansas State, one of 3 transfer guards that they have that play significant minutes. And LSU had a good non-conference, went 11-2, and that SEC start was sort of a little shock to the system. Lost to Vanderbilt, which there wasn't a lot of high expectations for. Lost to Missouri, who beat Kansas, but Missouri wasn't seen as a high-level, high upper echelon SEC team. And then they lost to Ole Miss, which obviously Ole Miss is really good. So the win against Arkansas was a big sort of lift for them. And they initially wanted their identity to be more of a running gun. Let's get threes up. Let's try to go a fast tempo type of team. They still want to go fast tempo, but the three-point shooting hasn't really followed through. They only have 2 players that are consistent three-point shooters in Carter and the other guard that's a transfer from UT Martin and Jordan Sears. So the LSU team still has a lot of learning to do, but those are a couple of the household names.
Hey, TJ, this is Olin Buchanan. So the injury to Jalen Reed, how big of that? How big a loss was that for LSU, and how have they compensated?
Yeah, that was enormous loss. Jalen Reed, he's a junior. He's one of the mainstays for LSU. He was here in McMahon's first recruiting class a few years ago. And he was the one that was developing, and 30 was supposed to be his breakout, his first game, even though it was against a mid-major team. He had 20-plus points, I think close to double-digit rebounds, and he looked like, okay, this is going to be our interior force, as well as just gobble up rebounds at 6'10", 240. He's gotten stronger. He came in at 6'10", 220, so putting on 20-plus pounds is really good to see. And the ACL injury he suffered December 3rd against Florida State was devastating. He was finding himself. He was really important as a starting center, combo forward type. And yeah, without him, they lose a lot of rebounding. They lose their best post scorer. And they had to insert Damian Collins, who is a redshirt junior, but Damian Collins, who had his season-ending injury last year and also didn't play as much his first couple of years when he was a Kentucky kid. They had to rely on guys more that they didn't expect to rely on as much. And it's been an adjustment. The biggest sort of way they compensated is by putting more responsibility on Corey Chest, their redshirt freshman, who initially wasn't even in the rotation. He played only 3 minutes, and then I think got a lot more minutes that second game. But he's now a starting power forward for LSU, and he's their best rebounder alongside Damian Collins. And those guys are 6'9", 6'8", 220, 215 on a good day. So they lost a lot of girth inside, and they lost a lot of reliable rebounding. So that's been the biggest issue since Jalen Reed's injury, along with just his presence as a leader who's been in the program the longest alongside Derek Fountain, who's a backup big, who's also been around.
When you look at this A&M team, TJ, it's an older team with a lot of continuity, and you mentioned LSU kind of bringing in pieces from all over the place, playing some young guys. Even without Wade Taylor, and we don't know what his status will be until tonight and the injury report comes out, but even without Wade Taylor, if you're looking at this through an LSU perspective, obviously going on the road in this league is going to be extremely tough this year. But when you look at this matchup with A&M, is that an area where the Aggies would kind of worry the Tigers just in their kind of continuity and their experience, and they're an old basketball team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. Texas A&M, I have a lot of respect for A&M. I'm sure Matt McMahon does as well. Very athletic, very physical, very connected, especially on the defensive end. Even without Wade Taylor, I think Phelps has taken a big step up offensively, taking the shots. May not be as an efficient scorer, but he's willing to take those shots and create for himself. And I believe LSU is very worried about the offensive rebounding. That's one of their other weaknesses alongside turnovers. They've been somewhat up and down in terms of how well they can crash the glass on the defensive side. And obviously A&M's the number one offensive rebounding team in the country. So I'm pretty confident that's probably bullet point number one for LSU going into the game. As far as other things that I think LSU are a little bit concerned about, I just mentioned about the turnover issues, the aggressive defenses that they face, such as Ole Miss, even Missouri, they've been sped up. The guards, they're just starting a freshman guard right now, Curtis Gibbons, who played for Montverde, played with Cooper Flagg and them. So he's obviously very talented, but he's still having his learning curve and has been a little up and down, not making as many shots. Having a game here that's good, but then maybe a couple straight games where he's looking a little bit like a fish out of water as far as ball control and scoring. So I'm pretty confident A&M's going to probably throw the kitchen sink at him and try to make it really difficult for him to feel comfortable running the show. They do have Jordan Sears, who is a fifth-year senior, smaller guard at 5'11", but he's a bit more competent as a scorer in terms of like reliably making a three-pointer. So they'll look to him. LSU will look to him as sort of the person that will keep them even keeled when it comes to run the show and to getting reliable buckets alongside Cam Carter, who can't do it all by himself. The last little thing I'll mention is that LSU's without, or last game they didn't play without their freshman guard, sort of not sensation, but their best scoring freshman, Victorious Miller. He's day-to-day with an ankle injury. They didn't need him for the Arkansas game, but I think they would have liked to have his presence as a shooter, as a mid-range scorer who can give some relief buckets as he has so far this year.
You know, TJ, it's my opinion that there are no bad teams in the SEC, and that includes LSU. I mean, and that's shown in the fact that, you know, they're 12-5. It's not a bad record. Just coming off the win over Arkansas. What did they do? How were they able to beat Arkansas? Because I know they got behind early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was there at that game. It was a really fun watch. Got a little closer than it should have been. Boogie Flan, who's probably going to be drafted in the NBA for Arkansas, he got hot and sort of made that game a little closer, a little dicey at the end. But LSU, they rocked with their older players. This is one of the first times McMahon has started no freshmen sort of in the last 10 minutes of the game and closed with a guy named Mike Williams, who's a sophomore guard, who's been in and out of the rotation. And he also closed with a guy named Derek Fountain instead of that Corey Chess player, who's a redshirt freshman. Derek Fountain, not as athletic, but is very reliable and not as much mistake prone. Closing with the upperclassmen plus the sophomore I mentioned. Yeah, that was a big difference that we hadn't really seen yet from LSU's team. And in terms of how they played, and my story it's a little cliche, but it's true. They played with toughness. They had 11 blocks. Damian Collins, who I mentioned, he's a world-class leaper and athlete. He was gobbling up rebounds and getting 4 blocks and wasn't afraid of going to body with Jonas Adu, who was 6'11", 230, 40-plus pounds, so definitely heavier than Damian Collins, going against a guy like Trevon Brazile, who's also really athletic and very tall and strong. They played with toughness and grit, and they made enough shots. LSU is not going to outscore you guys like an Alabama team or a Kentucky team that's going to light it up from beyond the arc unless they get hot for the first time. They haven't really had their first really high-level three-point shooting type of game against a high-level competition yet. Maybe Kansas State, but that was way earlier in non-conference. But LSU, yeah, they've been trying to find the shooters that will help them as far as just getting the points up. But yeah, Damian Collins and the toughness that they showed against Arkansas is how they got that win.
TJ, really appreciate your time. Real quick, how do you see this one playing out tomorrow night in College Station?
Yeah. So I think LSU will come in very motivated. They want to try to build some momentum, get a second game under their belt, second win. Most likely is what they want to have accomplished. I do think Texas A&M is a little bit too much for them to handle, just too much aggression on defense, too much physicality. I think LSU is going to give up some offensive rebounds, most likely in the clutch moments of the second half. I think it should be close for a moment, but maybe A&M extends that lead in the last 12, 13 minutes of the game. Should be, I think A&M got LSU in this one.
TJ, appreciate your time. If you're coming over, safe travels, but look forward to watching your work going forward this winter and spring. That's TJ Brown of the Baton Rouge Advocate, or the Advocate in Baton Rouge, basketball writer for them. Brought us some good insight. Tigers and Aggies getting ready to tip off tomorrow night from Reed Arena. When we come back, we will close out the Go Hour. Olin looks like he has something to say.
Always have something to say.
All right, we'll hear it on the other side. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live. It's the end of the 8 o'clock hour on Friday. You know what that means. We're going around Aggieland with Miss Kay Naegeli, a.k.a. Steve's Daughters, presented by Normandy State Banking. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. Visit normandystatebank.com. Miss Naegeli, take it away.
Thank you. Steve's daughter. He will love that introduction.
Stephen Laurie's daughter.
Stephen Laurie. Yeah. How are you going to leave out my mom?
Yeah, you look more like Lori than Steve.
I do. I'm
She
actually.
acts more like Steve.
Steve was fishing this morning, so I'm not doing any of that. Anyways, let's get right into it. I want to start off with some women's basketball action. They played just last night. They got back in the win column against Georgia. It was a big one. They overcame a 8-point deficit with just 4 minutes remaining. Aisha Coulibaly absolutely went off. She's A&M's star player, and she sure did act like it last night. The SEC foes were tied 12 times, and the game saw 10 lead changes. It was just exchanging punches back and forth until Georgia ultimately sped away. A&M came right back. They had an 18-5 run. Aisha Coulibaly powered that. She had a late charge with 12 fourth-quarter points. On the men's basketball front, we just talked to TJ Brown. A&M will have Luke is over there dancing.
He's trying to make it about himself.
He is. He is just, he heard men's basketball and he just got really, really excited. And so he's doing a little dance over there. Back to what I was saying. Revenge of the Nerds, as Sophie said earlier. Men's basketball will take on LSU. That is a 7:30 p.m. tip tomorrow night at Reed Arena. That should be a good one. Baseball, we are just 28 days away from the Mike Early era. They will begin against Elon on Friday, February 14th. Take your Valentine's date out to Bluebell Park is what I think.
Watch the number 1 ranked Aggies.
Heck yeah. Also, talking about top 10 team, Trisha Ford's softball team is ranked number 7. They are just 20 days away from opening their season against Utah State in the Aggie Classic. Really excited about that.
Aggies versus Aggies in that one.
Yeah, I think Emily Kennedy, preseason All-American.
She is.
And Coco Woolley was named by D1 Softball the number 3 shortstop in the country.
Yeah, I believe that one of the transfer additions was also within the top 100. And
I'm looking forward. Coach Ford's done a great job. They've done a great job. They were inches away from getting to what I guess would have been a super regional last year, potentially on their way to Oklahoma City. So the next step, softball's going in the right direction. Jamie Morrison got volleyball going in the right direction. Hopefully this win for Joni Taylor gets women's basketball going in the right direction. Thanks, Kay. Of
course.
All right, Bank on it, OB, presented by Vera Bank. Authentic, relationship-based banking, built for life. Go see Joel Jackson and the team. Learn more at verabank.com. What are you banking on?
TJ Brown just told us that LSU having some trouble in the front court. You know, they said they played with toughness, but
so who are we going to throw the ball to?
Pharrell Payne.
Throw the ball to Pharrell Payne.
Pharrell Payne.
What are you banking on?
For real. I'm banking on Pharrell.
Good. You're
he's happy.
These guys a rap god.
Hey, Lamar.
He's a rap god. I'm banking on. I think the Aggies, even without Wade Taylor, double-digit win.
Double-digit
over
win.
LSU.
Okay.
I feel good about one of these guys finding their footing and playing closer to their ceiling. I just think if the ball can keep moving on offense without Wade, if Zurich and Manny can get the ball moving and they get more efficient looks at the basket, I think a byproduct of that is Manny and Zurich scoring more.
Yeah, I think A&M's going to shoot better. They're going to be at home. Typically, the free throws against Alabama notwithstanding, you typically shoot better at home.
What are you banking on basketball-wise?
Lamar?
I mean, you still... What? Oh, wait, Lamar's from Revenge of the Nerds, right?
Yeah,
okay, whatever. I'm banking on Pharrell Payne having another big night. His points per game average is up by 8 in conference play. He's just getting 4 more.
What is his field goal percentage?
I'm so glad you asked, Braunie, because I was probably just going to tweet it out later today, but I'll just say it now. Against power conference opponents, since the Wake Forest game, he is shooting 91.4% from the field, which leads all Division I players over that time period.
So what is he on the season?
I haven't done that math, but I could get
you.
it for you in 30 seconds. But yeah,
we don't have 30 seconds. We're about to go to.
Actually, we do have 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds.
Let's see.
The race is on. Somebody cue up George Jones.
George Jones.
I feel tears welling up, going deep.
On the season, he's shooting 70% from the field.
Man, that's good, right?
That's really good. And he's much better from the foul line.
No, I mean that's outstanding.
I'm glad you asked about being from the foul line too, because in his first 8 games,
I didn't ask anything.
He was shooting.
Nick, I went on record. I didn't ask this.
He was shooting 43% from the field. Last 9 games, 69% from the field.
Olin may be the best thing that ever came out of Minnesota.
See you at Reed Arena tomorrow.
I'll be there.
All right, that's the Go Hour on TexAgs Live. We come back. We think Billy Liucci will be here. If not, Luke will tap dance for the entire audience. When we come back, we're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I'm counting down the hours now. I think 48 hours from now, I will be on a plane to Atlanta, Georgia. Should be landing in Atlanta right about now to get on another plane to go to the U.S. Virgin Islands. So all of the bumper music.
Honeymoon there?
Honeymoon there. Went there for my birthday. Me and my wife found the perfect spot for us, and so we just keep going back. We love it. And so I think as long as we don't have kids, we want to keep taking a vacation around this time because it's almost perfectly, well, I say perfectly, it's about as in between the end of the transfer portal and the beginning of baseball season as we could possibly get.
Yeah.
And that was the reason why we got married in this, in January 20th when it was cold outside, was because this was the only time that we could get on the calendar where it wasn't interfering with other stuff. So anniversary vacation with the wife on deck for me. So all of your bumper music will be island themed for the rest of the show. We went Pacific Island to start the show. Now we're moving more to the Caribbean for the rest of the show. We're awaiting the arrival of Billy Liucci. Nick, is he back there? Not back there yet. He may want to call in. I don't know. I texted him this morning to remind him that we had changed the time. But there's a lot of stuff to get to with A&M sports right now. Kind of in, not purgatory. I don't want to say purgatory because I think everybody's still very excited about Aggie basketball. But we are kind of in that window before baseball starts, and there's kind of a coalescing, a coming together of sports in February and March. We have a lot of stuff to talk about when you have basketball postseason, baseball starting, softball starting, and you also have football spring practice getting ready to kick off. So there is a lot more to talk about in those months, but this is a little bit of a downtime. And, thankfully, I guess for us on the media side, A&M football is giving us topics to cover. And I'm not singling anything out, so it's not nefarious, Luke. I wasn't making any kind of nefarious joke there. But we're going to get Billy's thoughts on Micah Hudson stepping away from football. That announcement comes out yesterday. Obviously something that we've been monitoring, I guess, for about 24 hours before it went public. But I also want to kind of get his thoughts on what A&M still has to do in the transfer portal and players still going in. You can just look at it. You don't have to be a sports person. Look at the academic calendar, look at the recruiting calendar, and anybody that doesn't follow this stuff to an analyst level like I do or Jason does or Billy does, you can see there are major discrepancies within the athletic calendar and the academic calendar. They don't align. He's on the phone. Okay, Billy's on the phone. Thanks for yelling at me, Nick. I don't have my earphones in. Being a bad host, I should have my earphones in. Luch, you there? Luch, you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about the academic and athletic calendars with A&M still hosting visitors that are going into the transfer portal from these playoff teams. Harrison Wallace, a wide receiver from Penn State, expected to be in town tomorrow. The last day to add drop classes is the day. Like this, the more that that Pandora's box continues to open on all this stuff, the more we find out that it's going to get harder and harder to fix anything.
It's been that way from the moment you said Pandora's box. The moment they opened it, it's been that way. And all of these issues and little quirks that people go, oh, and then there's this, and then this. And hey, Ross Dellinger reported this, and Delly reported that. Like, who's the best in the game at covering this stuff? Basically, when they opened the door for NIL, the way they did it, Ross Dellinger, like, he went from covering conference realignment to COVID to this. Because there's a whole, like, literally he can make a career covering this stuff now. There's just so many rabbit holes and loopholes and changes that are going to happen. But all of this was seen from a million miles away from every coach, every administrator that had a clue. And there were people here back then that were, I would say, like, I'm thinking of like the administration here during the time. Justin Moore was one that really talked to people around the country about this, and he could see it coming from a mile away, 100 miles away, and it's part of why A&M did so well at the very, very, very outset of NIL. People saw what was coming, and I don't mean $30 million well. I mean just they were ahead of the curve, which is where those rumors got started from. But you just can't, man, there's no stopping it. And all these issues like the calendars and like it's going to spiral out of control where a quarterback is going to be paid, like if you're getting X quarterback for this much money whose resume is a 6 out of 10. Don't worry, because you're going to look back in 2 years or 1 year even, and that's going to be a bargain because the quarterback whose resume is a 3 out of 10 is going to get twice that. And that's going on everywhere. And like the quarterback that's never played, that sat on your bench, and it was going to be the third string, and now he's second because somebody in between left to double or triple their salary somewhere else because now the University of Virginia and Wake Forest have double-digit millions of dollars to spend with the new deal. So it's just that the trickle-down effect is incredible. It is incredible.
Well, and what you're going to see, Billy. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like linemen that are not that good are going around the country right now making $1 million plus, and we're all raising our eyebrows at where some of these transfer portal guys go that weren't going to play at A&M. And then you hear the numbers, and I'm sure the Aggies are getting guys that they're having to pay numbers that the teams they're leaving are going, man, really? Like, it's just, not to mention, any player at any school right now that agreed to a deal, and trust me, it's going on everywhere, can walk into a coach's office and they walk in a month or so after, agreeing to a deal, and they come back to school and they say, hey, coach, this isn't working for me. Well, it's not. This $250,000. Okay. Last time you were in here, we agreed, this was, no. Kentucky offered me $6 million, but I'll stay here for $5 million and double my money. And it's like, no, like we just sat down and it's almost like arbitration. Like 250 was the fair number to you. Then they come in and like it is. How do you manage that? And so, Brauning, first of all, I don't believe anyone in the NFL is hiring Deion Sanders. Let me just say that. I just don't think his shtick would play with pro athletes. But another guy whose name has come up, obviously, is Sark. The reason I don't think he would leave is, A, I don't know who would actually give him the job yet at this point in that league. But second, I'm saying wouldn't leave. The only reason I think he would, if you're at a job like Texas A&M or Texas or Bama or Georgia, you would never leave in the past, right? Like, people don't realize this. The Philadelphia Eagles offered Kevin Sumlin could have had the Eagles job. He stayed at A&M. Nowadays, what do you think would happen? And it's because of exactly what you talked about and exactly what I'm talking about. Like, these coaches, you're going to start seeing them. Jay Wright and Nick Saban retired. That's fine. But, like, how many coaches are going to go, like, head coaches from lesser paying schools than the top tier SEC, right? Like Clark Lee is doing nice things at Vandy. He ain't going to leave anytime soon. But at what point does Clark Lee, like a head coach in the SEC, go, man, my quality of life would be so much better for me and my family and just my sanity if I just went and was a defensive coordinator in the NFL?
Yeah, for sure. And you bring up a lot of good points about the stuff that we continue to hear that goes on across the country. And after all of this stuff should be settled, I mean, there are kids that are in class, in workouts, that not just at Texas A&M, but across the country that are fielding calls from other schools about go in the spring and we'll pay you this amount of money if you go in the spring. It's like, how do you even begin to not even just manage the people on your roster, but manage what's going on in your locker room?
I'm here. You can go to an early break if you prefer.
Okay, let's do that. Early break, Billy. On the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Luch, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Jimmy Buffett bringing you back 9:16 on a Friday morning. TexAgs Live presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I'm Ryan Brauninger. Inside the Rollo Insurance Studios with Billy Liucci, TexAgs executive editor, co-owner. In here, and do you want to show everybody before we start talking about sports? The
outfit.
The viewing audience should probably see this very Italian New York City jumpsuit you got on.
First of all,
made me
yes and no
roll laughing.
First of all, yeah, I should have done it while you were on it. Yeah, first of all, yes and no. If it would be like velour, then we would really be on to something Sopranos-ish.
I can't believe this is the first time I've ever seen you do this.
You might be seeing a lot of this.
I mean, it's matching. Even the pattern on the pants is the same. Like, don't want to hit your mic to come off.
It's a matching. It's called aloe, Brauninger.
I believe me, I'm not into the fashion stuff like you are.
It's very comfortable.
I've seen you wear a lot of fashionable things, and I know that you have.
It's
people that help
as
you.
hell. You'll be seeing quite a bit of it.
When
there are days that I just wake up and the temperature's anything under. I mean, hell, I might set the over under at 70.
Whoa.
If there's a 6 in front of it, I'm probably throwing this on and coming in.
Yeah, you got griff hair.
Yeah. What I won't do. Oh gosh, that's a long one.
You got a bunch of griff hair on this hat.
I wonder where it's been. I know it's been on the floor.
But did you? Not to dive too deep in the weeds, but did you run this by your stylist?
Yeah. I mean,
and she thought it was fine. Okay.
I'm just telling you, there are a lot of people that are going to get like angered and have a problem with this hat and like
the hat.
He can't, or the outfit. Yeah. He can't wear that. He can't wear that. What does that?
It does look comfy. If Luke
maroon hat.
Here's the thing, though. You got to understand that if
actually, I'll tell you what. I'm not going to say who because I don't know if it's out there yet. But there's a certain buddy of mine who's selling now, like. I don't know if they've come to some type level of agreement, I believe, with Lululemon or somebody needs to partner up with Aloe and do a maroon one of these. Would be awesome because they got them for men and they got them for women. And, there's like pink, purple, light blue. That one I wore the other day that inspired this was that where I look like the chocolate and vanilla swirl ice cream cone. But if you gave me a little maroon with a lighter shade or like some kind of combo, that could hit.
I just want you to know, I have no issue with it, but if the roles were switched, not even the roles were switched, if Evangelist walked in here with that on, or Zane, I would live for endless ridicule.
Or Nuno.
Just so that you're...
Or Nuno.
He would never. No, listen,
they don't make them
me and Nuno have had some common sense beefs. You were on the
I heard about one.
Yeah. All right.
Shaq and
Akeem. We were also talking about, he thinks that he's a better human because he wakes up at 5 a.m. and works out. So what does it matter the time on the clock? It's a matter about how you work out. And if you walk into the gym with that jumpsuit on, you wouldn't have any problem getting any machine you wanted. It's like a power suit in the gym. Intimidating.
It has a little Hans and Franz to it.
It does.
It kind of does.
All right, we ended last segment talking about the transfer portal and the Aggies hosting Harrison Wallace this weekend, wide receiver. No, the top wide receiver last season at Penn State, not the top pass catcher because Tyler Warren was over 1,000 yards.
Who, by the way, is a fun tight end to watch. I'm over here on Luke. These two, they're like the two.
Who's the two?
Him and Dawson are like the two. The two old men sitting at the top of the Muppets in the theater. They're like those two, but they're early.
You think
20s.
Dawson's facial hair makes him look French? That was the kind of theme yesterday.
Yeah, he looks like he could be like an impressionist artist or something. But just put the right hat on him, like a little, yeah. So anyway, that Tyler Warren, he's just absolute beast. When you see any time, the guy at Texas is good, really good, 80-foot gunner helm. But I don't think when you watch him and then you watch Warren, Warren looks like that dude could be like a future Gronk, a future Kelsey. He just stands out as like one of the when I'm watching college football and you ask me, give me your top 5 pros currently playing college football, I know there's a guy catching passes at Ohio State and there's a guy catching passes at Penn State that are on my top 5 list. Absolutely. And interestingly enough, I don't think there's a quarterback on my list. I'm talking about
I would think that Travis Hunter would be on that list.
Somebody's good. But see, I would put those two above Travis Hunter.
Really?
Yes.
Ooh. I mean, he was must-watch TV, man.
I know he was, but I also know
he looks like a pro to me.
I did not say he doesn't look like a pro.
I thought you said that was what that top 5 list.
He didn't look like my top 5. He might be in my top 5, but he ain't. When I watch Warren and they look of a different level to me. Like, what's Travis Hunter?
Jeremiah Smith.
What's Travis Hunter playing for you?
Whatever he wants.
He's going to be a 175-pound corner.
Well, I bet he's heavier than that.
Would you draft him number 1 if he only played corner?
No.
Okay. Do you think he's as good a receiver as Jeremiah Smith? Like, if you're an NFL team, who are you taking?
I mean, it's a small sample size for Jeremiah Smith. Obviously, we know what he looks like. He checks all those markers.
I would take him over Travis all day. If he was in the draft, 32 teams in the NFL would agree with me. 32.
Well, we'll see, because Travis might get picked first.
He might, but he's not in the draft with him.
Right. So will Jeremiah Smith get picked?
Depends on what the quarterbacks are that year. Would Travis Hunter, most NFL people I talk to, which is a lot lately, this time of year, they're like, wherever he goes, and like Shador and Cam Ward, or like even a Quinn Ewers, they're going there this year because it is an abnormal draft. Like, go look at the top 3 to 5 defensive linemen every year in the draft and tell me how many of them a team wouldn't take over Travis Hunter. And a lot of that's just because of his size, and people are looking at him, every team, at one side of the ball and go, where would you draft him to play this if this was his position? And it's not number 1. If you're a receiver, it might be in a normal year 5. I'm not saying the dude's incredible, but I'm just saying, to me, if I'm looking at guys and go, that guy's a superstar in the NFL.
Well, I do understand the professional
he's in my
ranks.
top 5, but he's not.
Yeah.
And if he goes number 1 this year, it's because of a dearth of quarterbacks and day 1 starter rushers. Yeah.
Offensive tackles. Yeah. But where we were going was Harrison Wallace visiting a wide receiver from Penn State. We had talked about last segment with just the calendar being so messed up. A&M's technically the last day to add drop is today. He's visiting on Saturday. Clearly some academic, not rules will be broken, but they'll be bent. They'll be amended to these guys going into the portal. But for A&M, and I think that the necessity for you to get another receiver was always there, but it maybe ratcheted up yesterday with the news that Micah Hudson going to take a leave of absence from football.
Yeah, I think and this is just unfortunate reality of the situation they're in right now. We'll talk about Micah in a second, but I think if they restarted the cycle, you approach the way you attack that outside receiver search differently. It's hindsight is 2020, and every team in the country is operating on some level of hindsight right now. But we're covering A&M, and we're evaluating, and we're incredibly high on the 2 receiver, Concepcion and Craver. And I think people don't talk enough about Craver and his potential impact on this year's football team. He was impactful last year with a true freshman quarterback, first-year head coach, new system, and as a true freshman against teams like A&M, Texas, and Georgia. So really exciting there. But they put a lot of eggs into the Nick Anderson basket, and always kind of in the background was the possibility of Noah leaving. No one was caught off guard or surprised by that. That was an ongoing effort to keep him. But you knew every time you pursued someone or added someone, Noah in his camp, I don't care what they say, they were watching and paying attention to that. It felt like there was one foot out the door from the end of the season. And look, I still think if you're worried about, it's fair to look at the passing game this year and go, man, I got one shot left at this. It's still an inexperienced quarterback, and I didn't see as many touches as I wanted, and they can say everything they want, but I'm a little skeptical. I get that, but you went to Georgia. That didn't check a lot of those boxes. That didn't check very many of those boxes. So to me, then, if you would have just said, "Hey, I want a chance to win a national title next year," okay,
it would have gone down easier.
You've been around, but that wasn't what it felt like. So, anywho, they thought they could hang on to Noah.
Can I ask you a question about this?
Yeah.
In your opinion, was there anything more they could have done to get Nick Anderson or to keep Noah?
No.
From what
no. And that's why I don't want you to feel like your crew's under attack over here, because it's not. But it is. No. But my point is, that's why I said every school in the country can do some revisionist history right now. And so to me, my point of saying this is Noah kind of left them in a really bad spot. And they did, that's the whole point of me saying from the get-go, they knew that Noah was a flight risk. They were not caught off guard the day he went in the portal. From the day the season ended, people that listen to this have heard me say repeatedly there was one starter that they're fighting to keep from going in the portal. All along, that was Noah Thomas, period. And even after he went in, there was some hope, as you know, that they could keep him, right? They couldn't. So in hindsight, Nick Anderson went to LSU. I think A&M was as competitive or more on the NIL front. It was more about they sold him on, hey, you got an NFL quarterback here, NFL passing game. Now, this was before they even knew the road Kyron Lacey was going to travel down. And I don't mean that it's a little heavy-handed the way you describe that. But no pun intended there. It's tragic. I think it's disgusting.
Yeah.
What he's I haven't read about it in the last few days, but what he's accused of. But you didn't get Nick Anderson, and then you lost Noah. They could have survived not getting Nick Anderson. When you go Hudson, Concepcion, and Craver, we want him, it's okay. But if you'd have kept Noah, but you lose Anderson, you lose Noah. In hindsight, there are guys out there, what's the Kentucky guy, Key? Dane Key. I'm just thinking of bigger, taller, outside guys that they might have pursued. Well, now you've got an opportunity, in my opinion, to once again feel great about it, even with the uncertainty of Micah Hudson, which we're about to address. Even with that, if you could add this guy who, I don't think Drew Aller is some great passer down the field. We saw that the other night. He's up and down. He's competent. He's capable. I think he's a solid QB. But, being a great downfield passer is not yet his forte. The guy put up nice numbers.
Over 15 a catch.
Led a team that finished in the national semifinals. And however you want to say about Penn State, they were easily, I think, this year, one of the 10 best football teams in the country. You watch their defense, their running game, their tight ends. And with him, there were games where they'd go over the top and, move the ball through the air against good defenses. If you could get him, and I know coming in, Brauninger, I don't know if you've said this or we've talked about this, but Louisville seemed to have.
He's an Ole Miss today, too.
Yeah, and that's always, that's what Lane Kiffin does. So you're does he even make it here?
That's why we reported the visit, put it in pencil.
Yeah.
Now, we'll do some digging later tonight, and if he gets on the plane and heads to College Station, then we'll confirm it. But, there was still so much uncertainty with these portal visits that really putting anything, etching it in stone is a bad decision. But with this one, with as quality of a player as he is, as late as he went into the portal, and there's going to be other teams across the country that have substantial NIL pots that are going to need a receiver. This was going to be super competitive.
If I'm A&M, I strongly consider going all in on this one. I think they went all in on Concepcion. And what by that I mean, just whatever, by whatever definition of a terrific NIL opportunity. I think they did that with Concepcion.
And he's a one-year guy.
You said, they did everything they could. When I say Concepcion, they did everything they could with Concepcion. They beat out Bama and others for him, and they did everything they could with Nick Anderson. And it just wasn't enough because of He just, the number of balls he wanted in an offense in his mind. You can't, and that's what sucks about 1 year in. You can explain all the quarterback, okay, this was what we expected, and this guy, and this didn't work out, and we had to change over to this guy, and he developed as a passer down here. Casey Concepcion, like, I don't know if Allie talked to him about this during the interview, but his excitement level and interest in A&M jumped about 10 notches when he came and watched practice and watched Marcel run the first team.
Well, part of that is because he'd been beaten down by everybody in the recruiting side. Was like that A&M can't throw the football. Marcel's a problem in the passing game. And then he comes to campus and goes, oh, those are just negative recruiting pitches. This guy does throw the ball. Yeah.
So hopefully you get this guy out of Ole Miss this weekend. He makes it through the visit. I mean, you're not practicing right now, but I mean, you can sell him on. There's a lot of BS out there. Nick Anderson, didn't, but KC did, because there's a lot of negativity out there, and it's like, it's not real. It is. They don't feel obligated, nor do they want to explain. They don't want to explain the why about A&M, and it's only 1 year. You don't have a bunch of years. So, like Mike Denbrock is at Notre Dame, right? Even though they're playing for the national title, would you if I give you the pick to pick between LSU, Texas, Miami, or Notre Dame to recruit to be the final two with a receiver right now, who would it be?
If I wanted A&M to be in the final two with one of those, Notre Dame.
Okay, and Mike Denbrock is a freaking stud. And you look at his resume and look at everything he did. The reason LSU is having that success getting receivers is because of what Denbrock did. Not because of what these yahoos this year did when they lost 4 or 5. Like, he coached Jaden Daniels and Brian Thomas and the guy with the Giants, Malik Neighbors.
Yep.
He did that. And a couple guys before that. So, but yet, if you're in a battle because all he's had is 1 year without very good receiving talent at all, and Riley Leonard, who's a lot of things, but a great passer, he's not. So that's the position Klein and Elko and the Aggies are in. So if they could get him and close that out, and it's also not over in the portal at receiver, even in this early window, but especially even moving forward in that second window.
Yeah, it's going to be
There's
weird.
a couple teams still playing.
Yep. All right. We come back, we'll get to Micah Hudson stuff and continue to talk about receiver and potentially defensive tackle here in the waning days, I would say, of the transfer portal in this window. Billy Liucci, Ryan Brauninger, TexAgs Live, coming to you on the other side of the break. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Everyone, David Nuno here in a moment right now for Snaps Clothing. They are the makers of the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snap shirts. I'm wearing it right now. This is part of their Tailgater collection. It's built for game day. My friend Edgar over there is doing great work. You've got to check out the clothing. It's the Pearl Snaps. It's the cool look. It's kind of hip, but also Western. You'll love it, and they have great stuff there. They'll keep you comfortable as you're repping your Aggie gear, and it's the place to go to get it. Whether you're watching the game from home or tailgating before watching the stands, these shirts have you covered. Head to snapsclothing.com. That is snapsclothing.com to gear up for the season.
All right, we're rolling right along on a Friday morning. TexAgs Live presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Ryan Brauninger in the host chair inside the Rollo Insurance Studios. Don't forget, if you want to interact with the show, 979-693-1150. Put Luke to work in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, Boss Firearms Hotline. And Nick, guess what I'm going to do? Let's give away some pizza. As a reminder, the final segment of our show at 1050 is brought to you by Double Dave's. Right now, caller number 12 at 979-693-1150. We'll hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's, serving Aggieland and beyond since 1984. Your favorite pizza, world-famous pepperoni rolls, reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on the way. Luch, you had an update yesterday on the site. A lot of people talking about just the Micah Hudson story that he's taking a leave of absence from football. Still enrolled in school, hasn't left classes, hasn't left College Station, and it seems like the invite to come back to the football program, if and when he's ready, is on the table.
Yeah, and should be.
Yes.
With like we never, like, this is the thing about this age. When a player is not, and sometimes even when they are, it just depends on what they've done to get in trouble. But when they're not in any kind of trouble, they're in good standing with the football program, with the university. This is an academic it is
nothing nefarious.
It's quite literally like this is a young person, and a lot of you listening have kids that age, college students, and everybody's been through it and been there and understands, like, they've had friends that have been, like, it's a tough time of life, especially when you go into college with that level of expectation of athletic excellence, and you don't see that right away. And then if there's anything else going on in your personal, and I'm not saying this is Micah, but anybody, personal or family life, anything, any type struggles back home, your family, like any of that, like it can set it off to where it's too much. And I know we want catches and touchdowns, and we just spent all this time talking about how important the wide receiver position is, and Micah Hudson was that addition was a big part of the excitement for that. I think he was kind of the wild card in that bunch because as I said, when they took him, he hadn't proven it yet. He didn't do that in year one at Tech, but the upside and the potential was off the charts, and it still is if he wants it to be.
Yeah.
But that is literally like his decision to make is, okay, whatever is going on in my life, whether that's personal, family, if I just woke up one day and was sick of all this, like that's his prerogative. Now, if that goes away and if there's a renewed, like, hey, okay, I'm ready
you
to
just
come
need to
back
clear
to
your
this.
head and
But there's
nothing, and there was, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here. Like there was nothing leading up to this. He had been on time for everything. Classes, he'd been great with all that stuff based on what we know. So there was clearly something that had been eating at him below the surface.
Yeah, and so, and again, we don't know what that was. He doesn't owe it to you, to me, to probably even, I'm sure he talked about it with Coach Elko. He did, but you don't owe it to anyone. And people go, I saw, what's his name, the JUCO coach, Jason.
Coach JB, Jason Brown.
Yeah, he's going off on that. I don't think if a guy removes himself from the football program, there's going to be and you're not paying NIL there. So people that are like thinking about that, it's silly. But I do think he's got that spot for him. I know he does if he wants to return. But I'm just telling you, for those that are sitting there going, oh, he's just going through a little thing right now, he'll be back. I don't think that's the case at all. Like he might not. There is a real chance that Micah Hudson goes, not for me, man. Like, it's too much. Whatever I have going on combined with it, like it. I think that's a legitimate possibility. I also think I've seen this enough to know that there are some guys that come back to this, and then this sent us all the way down. I was reading some of the thread, like, and Twitter, where people are far less. God forbid someone should tweet something out kind and understanding. And some people actually did, but it's still so toxic over there. But you're reading stuff about things like mental health and stuff. And by the way, no one's confirmed that that's, what does that entail? I mean, your mental health will be affected if you're in a fight with your wife, or if someone's going through a separation, or a family member's not doing well, or a pet, or you break up with your girlfriend, or you really have something chemically wrong with your brain. Like, there's a million things that to that person, but for people to say, jump to that conclusion and talk about, okay, fine, let's talk about that. Because I could tell you a lot of dudes that have played football here and around the country in the last, when I was in college, and this makes me sound old and sound like an old guy, but even probably when you were there at McNeese, you didn't hear about leaves of absences, or as an employer now, here at TexAgs, we're very sensitive to that kind of thing. If it were to occur, times have changed in terms of, when I was in school, I think if one of my roommates would have done that, Steve or Dan or Seth would have been like a really good friend. You shake face, Seth. Would have been a really good friend to have there, but there also would have been some come on, dude. That doesn't really, that's not the way of the world now. And it's, you can like it or not, but you can't disagree that that's not the way of it now. But I'll tell you this, in the modern college football era, whenever that started, I can remember Kevin Sumlin going through a lot of this with players. And even before that, some of these guys have had a lot of success at A&M and into the NFL. Even to this day, there's a couple guys.
I mean, Johnny.
Johnny talks openly about it. Yeah. He had Vince Young sitting in that seat in his podcast, and Vince talked about it. It's a lot.
Von Miller was loading his truck up to leave.
Yeah, and I think that was, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that might have been as more football and stuff related. I don't know if
I can't remember.
But I'm trying to not name names other than the guys that actually said, hey, yeah mental health, like Johnny and Vince are good examples. But there are guys that came through here that people never knew about, that were stars here, and then went on, whether they're just here and that was it, or they went on to the next level. And every guy in the last 20 years can come in here and tell you about teammates they had that the team knew. They would literally go during the off season for intense therapy, or almost have to go home. And then unfortunately you lost one tragically, more tragically for the victim, and his family. But Thomas Johnson was a classic example. I think there's a guy going through it right now that, and again, I'm not comparing these extremes. I'm just saying, there is a world where these type situations where a guy has to step away. Again, man, you don't know what the kid is going through in his life. You don't know what he's a different personality than you. He's a different one than me. We all want a 5-star receiver on the team. We all want the receiver position to make a big jump from last year. We want to see, like I said, receptions and touchdowns out of Micah Hudson. But you also, if we're going to do this thing about Noah Thomas leaving and kind of thumbing his nose at graduating an Aggie and Aggie Network and say, hey, you're going to do that just for football and go to Georgia. You're not really going to be like a lifelong Aggie. People aren't going to remember you as such. And talk about how great the network is, like I heard y'all doing yesterday on the fan show. And by the way, who was it? There's something to be said for someone buying you a cold beer, but I don't think that's the big selling. Hey, if you stay in Aggie, I think it was Roy May. If you stay in Aggie, man,
it was Browning.
Hey, they're gonna buy you a beer every
and then
time
Roy
you come
was
to
like,
town.
well, yeah, they'll also hire you. It's a job.
But if we're gonna do all that, then we also need to be show that side of it too when crap's not going good for an athlete.
All right, we're up against the break. We'll come back. Short segment, finish the 9 o'clock hour. Billy's going to stick around. We'll switch our focus to hoops. Aggies, LSU Tigers tomorrow at Reed Arena. When we come back on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, a couple minutes left in the 9 o'clock hour on Friday morning. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Luch, I'm about 48 hours away from a vacation. So I know you are the king of, not vacations, you're the king of like itinerary on vacation. So if you were going to the Caribbean, what would be on your to-do list?
My to-do list? Or
I got into snorkeling last time we went.
I like snorkeling. I do like it.
My wife is incredible on like anything that she's terrible balancing on flat land, but you put her on the water, she'll paddleboard way out in the bay, go look at the reef. She said she saw a big giant sea turtle.
Yeah, I like going to those places where there's, if I'm in the Caribbean or Mexico or wherever, like I prefer to spend a lot of time in the water, period. Like whether it's on a boat or in the water, like I can go to a bar anywhere. I can go to a club anywhere. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying I don't do that in those places, but like, during the daytime, like I like to be on a boat in the ocean.
Eat
more
good food.
In the ocean, way more so than in a pool also. So yeah, those places where you can just walk out and the water's barely moving and you can just go snorkel out as far as you want. Like I love doing that, snorkeling, just getting out and just hanging out there.
They do a sunset bay cruise on one of the catamarans. It's gorgeous.
I like going places where you can see, like it's what I like about Cabo, because you can go see scenic stuff. You do it enough, it doesn't change, but like I like going out where you can see whales or shark, things like that. So
all right, when we come back, we're going to talk about a whale of a basketball game tomorrow, Aggies and Tigers. Switching to the hardwood on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
You know much about Bush?
We're live, Billy. Hold on. Ryan Brauninger, Billy Liucci, Friday, 10 o'clock hour, getting you ready for the weekend. Lucci's got his phone out.
What do you know about
20 seconds of every song that he's got on his playlist. This reminds me of Sidelines. Remember that show? A&M football?
Yeah, I was on it.
Yeah.
So was your boy Louie.
Was he really?
And C-Rod, yeah. And
I wonder if we could get copies of those things.
I got hit with a dose of one of the former stars of Sideline. I ran into him in Vegas. So,
I know you're
no, why does
what year was that?
Why does the song "Come Down" by Bush?
It wasn't like one of the songs of like the. I think it was like one of their songs that they sang. Either the people on the show sang, or it was the intro.
Why would people on the show sing? I don't.
There was one guy that was like a. He was trying to make it as a.
Oh really?
Yeah, and like
maybe he did Machine Head.
No, I think it was "Come Down" by Bush.
Really interesting. I saw Bush.
What year was that?
I saw Bush in Hurricane Harry's, R.I.P. Harry's, but a couple of years, like within the last like 5, 6, no, maybe a little longer. Bush came through Hurricane Harry's. It's awesome.
For those of you that don't know,
they were like trying to make it as a band.
The interns probably have no idea about the show Sidelines.
Okay, Bush used to be married to Gwen Stefani. There, Luke. There you go. I know you're a big fan
I know
of
who Gwen Stefani is, but who's Bush?
It's her pre-Blake Shelton marriage.
Okay, yeah, I know Blake Shelton.
But Sidelines, do you remember the show Sidelines? You're probably too young for that.
Way too young.
It was 2001.
Of course it was.
Yeah, I was born in 2001.
Hey, Luke, look up, go listen to Little Bush during the break, and I think you'll realize it's pretty good.
HW or just
Glycerine. Type in Glycerine. Listen to it on
That
your
was nice.
headphones. I heard
Glycerine.
Glycerin.
Glycerin.
Not glycerine, not Listerine.
If you heard the way he sings the song,
it must be your skin.
He's
I'm
British.
sinking in. It must be for real because now I can feel and I didn't mind. It's
Boy,
not
you're
my kind.
you're really making the song sound good. I meant listen to it while we're talking about
We ought to
other
make
things.
some of the stuff that, by the way, if you come in here on a game day and Nick is getting ready for game day stuff, and Nick's got his Shred Shack list going, we ought to do Nick doing poetic readings of the lyrics of some of the songs he listens to in the gym.
If you listen to Glycerine and sing it in your head and like picture it like in an Elmer Fudd type voice, and you could sing it pretty well.
All right, A&M and LSU. I was wanting to talk about Sidelines a little bit because I don't remember enough about it. I just don't remember what year it was.
It was 2001. I feel like I remember the show kind of like started off. I remember.
What were you? What was your role?
I've got VHS tapes.
I'd love to see it. What was your role in this thing?
I don't know how you transfer those. I didn't have a role per se. It was more like, well, I mean, it was like Louie and I would do. It was before the Bellucci hour, and there was like an in studio. I would go in studio for an hour. It was like the Maroon and White report, and I'd be in studio for an hour. I had just recently graduated A&M. And was just at the very infancy stages of this thing. And it kind of was like, if you watch a reality show or whatever you wanted to call it, it was like the show focused too much outside of football. That's why it was too much like to do with like various characters. The concept was all right, but it wasn't, at that time, it wasn't going to sell for the people wanted to see like, the stuff you see now, like the season and the thing the SEC does where they follow a different team each week, or these Netflix series, like that's what the fans wanted to see, and that's not what they got. And that was, but what it would be like, we would start out the show like, it'd be like we were in studio, it'd be like you started the show here, where it'd be like, well, the Aggies, with like this year, like dropped a tough one to, Notre Dame to start the season, a top 10 Notre Dame team came into college, and that we talk about it, it might see us going, what about, Connor Wigman, and what kind of showing was this for and that would kind of be kind of the start of the show, and then kind of sometimes the ending or the segue. They would just pull little pieces of us talking. So
I need to see that. I would be interested to see how much College Station has changed.
Oh, well, even just Kyle Field.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the not infamous, but famous, because I think A&M lost that Texas game. It was the Bluebell ice cream speech.
RC.
Yeah, I don't remember if that's where the Waddell one came out.
I think Waddell's earlier.
Andy Richardson.
Wasn't Waddell from an
I think
earlier
Waddell
era?
was maybe not. Yeah, he was probably earlier than that. He was still there, but it was earlier than that. But anyway.
Yeah.
It was
stroll down memory lane there.
I will try to uncover.
There's got to be a way to convert VHS.
I have,
digital,
you know, my mom's got them somewhere. She
That
don't throw anything out. That's for damn sure.
All right, A&M LSU on the
Just
hardwood tomorrow
piles
night. First of all, I doubt you're going to be able to provide the listeners any update, but got to ask you, where do you think they're at with Wade? The availability report comes out tonight.
Do I think he's going to be listed as out tonight, Luke, or not? Will he upgrade to?
Luke thinks this is an important game because it's 2 weeks from the injury, and it was 2 weeks from the problem.
I agree. It's 2 weeks from the re-aggravation of the injury, and I think you get to a point where you go, all right, we got to make a decision now. Is this guy going to play hurt all year, or are we going to shut him down and get him healthy? So, yeah, 2 weeks sounds like a point, right? To me and to you, Dr. Evangelist. Do they call you Dr. Luke? Are you like the nice doctor that comes in with like a lollipop and you're like, you know, a children's doctor? We're going to go see Dr. Luke.
They would say I have good bedside manner.
Well, you might want to shave that mustache before you start.
He creeped out some of the interns with it
handing
earlier.
lollipops out. But Dr. Luke and Dr. Liucci are going to sit here and think that 2 weeks.
You look like Dr. Mario.
Who's that?
Mario with a doctor's outfit. You don't remember Dr. Mario, the game where he threw the
no,
pills?
that was after me. I remember I just remember original Mario Brothers, and then you could take me all the way to Super Mario Brothers, and that's about where I stopped. I don't do Mario Kart. I don't do.
1990 was Dr. Mario.
Yeah, I didn't do 90 was Dr. Mario. I don't even remember Dr. Mario. I will say I was never a sucker for bad video games.
Dr. Mario.
I only played the good ones, dude. Like I didn't.
Had goblins. You threw pills at these, like, I think they were viruses. They look like goblins, but they were viruses. Pretty sweet. Anyway.
Interesting.
Dr. Luch.
So Dr. Liucci and Dr. Luke like to think, okay, it's 2 weeks. And we also like to think A&M needs to win this game. They have to. They don't have to. It's an 18 game there. You can lose this and go beat Auburn. But when you look at the schedule, and I mean, what you really love to do is go get LSU on the road. But you damn sure want to get them at home. Anytime in this league you play an unranked team at home, you really need to go beat them. And I know they just came off a nice win over Arkansas. They're a talented roster. I believe, Luke, the Aggies split with them last. Didn't they lose at home, win on the road?
LSU actually shocked them and beat them the first time.
Beat them pretty handily.
A&M couldn't score in the second half. Remember that?
Yeah, it was real close, maybe almost tied or real close at the half. Beat them handily. So this is it's not a must win, but it feels like a very important, it feels like one you need to go get, right? Can you get it without Wade? Sure. Is it going to be exponentially harder? Yeah. How much does Wade Taylor help you if he's not healthy? I think you could still drop the game.
You got to sit him until
he's all the way back. So you and I can think that's 2 weeks. It might be 3. We don't know because Buzz does not talk about that stuff. And when I know something and I'm going to act like I know, but kind of say, like, if I knew Wade Taylor was coming back, but the deal was, hey, I think he's going to be back, but it's going to really help them to kind of unleash him on LSU and not let them prepare. I'm not going to be sitting here blabbing it out, on the airwaves, but I don't. And so I can't sit here and feel confident in saying we'll see him this weekend, but we might. 2 weeks, like you said, 4 games. How many has he missed now? 3 or 4?
3 in a row.
3 games he's
4
missed.
total.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about him missing 3 is we could have seen them beating Alabama. We could have seen them beating Kentucky. They also could have lost those 2 games with Wade playing. I mean, those are really good, maybe third weekend, or Elite Eight, Final Four level teams. I don't think Kentucky get there in year one under Pope, but Alabama, even though they lost to Ole Miss, is really good, by the way. You want to talk about another reason why this LSU one is so big? Because you got to go to Ole Miss.
I thought Ole Miss was fool's gold until they beat Bama.
I don't think they're fool's gold. I think
not anymore. I don't.
Yeah, but I mean, before that, you watch them like they're athletic. They guard. They're physical. They're crispy. They're like the Tech Chris Beard team. They got that big. That's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
No, they're not fools. Neither them nor Mississippi State are fool's gold at all. Like, and they play into a tougher. That's a tough deal for A&M because they play with that same level of physicality and toughness, and so they kind of tend to cancel that out. Just like I thought Bama. It surprised me that Kentucky out-rebounded A&M like they did.
Yeah, that was my issue is like, what is Wade going to help you on the glass? And there's something to be said about Alabama and Kentucky flat out got better athletes than you do across the floor.
They're just so much bigger, particularly Alabama.
Yeah, they're big.
So much, not just in the starting lineup, but they go like 6 deep. It felt like 6, 7 guys that were just towers. But ironically enough, that's the game I think A&M could have won, more likely to have won with Wade, was Bama. Because as much as they were fouling, I think Wade all he would have done is drawn more fouls, probably hit some shots, and certainly hit free throws after the fouls, which none of them could do. And that's contagious. So if Wade could have been in there hitting free throws regularly, I think it could have affected everybody else as well. So the Bama game is the one I thought they could have won, and I actually think that's the worst matchup.
Yeah.
Out of the two. So, but they could have very easily lost those games, is what I'm saying. If he could come back in time for this one, but it might be this, dude. It might be 3 weeks. Not 3. When do they play Ole Miss?
Next week.
Tuesday.
During the week.
Yeah.
It might be 2 weeks and a couple days, and it might be a situation where, man, if you could get through this LSU one and be 2-2 in 4 games he missed, and he could really be like, but man, you're going to be hanging on tight. Hope you can win this thing, because without Wade Taylor, everybody's tough, and LSU will give some really good teams tough games with their star player intact. So it's a big game. It's a big game for Buzz and company. I think after losing those two the way they did, losing at home, getting out rebounding the way they did, I think this is like a game where I think you're going to see the Aggies come out and be really physical on the boards and really tough, and like with kind of I'd say a different level of hunger, but they always play with it. But just like whatever 10 out of 10 looks like in terms of their tenacity and just going out there and going after it and being dialed in.
Yeah, but that's a consistent characteristic. They're going to have somebody play better than they have. And I think that the silver lining in this is that you could see a lot of guys up their game. They just, and I don't even know if they would have upped their game a bunch if it would have, helped against Bama or Kentucky. But like, you need Manny to play better. You need Zurich to play better, more consistent, be more efficient with the basketball. I think there's another level for Jace Carter and some of these guys off the bench to go to. Anderson.
Well, you're just saying what I'm saying, like, unless you're talking about offensively, but I'm talking about just Solo, Andy. I thought Henry played good up at Kentucky. Pharrell Payne obviously did, but like Jace, those guys, I'm talking about, like, yes, they always play high level, on the defensive end and rebound, but there is like, you can play high level and be at a 9. Like, these guys need to be at a 10 this weekend, and they need to go out like killers on Saturday. And yeah, like what you're talking about, I think, is the guys I think Manny, this has been an opportunity for him to really step up and kind of recapture that form that he had last year that took this team to another level, that had this team playing at a level that could have seen them in an Elite 8 or a Final Four had they made free throws against U of H, had they not run into a team like U of H that early. But, I mean, had they made free throws against U of H they might have been in a Final Four last year because they were playing so good. A big part of that was Manny. So with Wade out, I think it's been an opportunity. He showed flashes of it, but he has yet to recapture or even come close to recapturing that end of season. I like seeing him hit a 3 against Kentucky. I like seeing him hit more of his free throws. But that's what Manny has to do. He has to offensively hit 3-pointers and get to the basket, get fouled, finish, make free throws. Those were the things he was doing at a pretty elite level last year. Actually, a very elite level for the last few games and in the postseason. He is an X-factor difference maker for this team like no other. And to me, this has been a chance for him to get back to that, and I haven't seen it yet. So hopefully he does. Look, it could be where he's just one of the guys that he's a role guy, and then there are games where he steps up. But if he can just find that form, then the ceiling for this basketball team changes. You mentioned Jace. I think. You mentioned Zurich. I think there's just the big difference in Zurich. He's such a great guy, penetrating, getting to the basket, getting fouled, finishing. I think when he's hitting the outside shot, which he didn't the other night, when he's hitting that, he becomes, arguably like the best. He can be the best player on the floor any night. You saw that in Oklahoma. You see him. So I think Zurich and Manny are kind of your two X factors, with or without Wade.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just them being more efficient in the offense. And Luke and I were talking about it earlier. Like the ball just sometimes it gets stuck with them. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to see them, first of all, throw the ball to Pharrell Payne more, and then work. And and get him a touch early in the shot clock and see if that can even produce more offensive efficiency from everybody else moving around. I don't know anything about basketball. I'm just guessing.
No, but you think you know a lot about it. We all know this, and you do.
I've said for 2 days I don't know anything about basketball.
You and I know enough.
He just rips my tweets.
He says I don't know anything about basketball, and then he tells you everything he knows about it. It's like me. Like we know we don't know as much as a lot of
I have
others.
an opinion, and I will tell you that I could be 1,000% wrong with this stuff.
But I don't think you are. I think we know enough, like, to talk about it sitting here, but we're not as well versed in that as, like, say, you are in baseball. It's like, but yeah, we're like everybody else sitting here. We watch, we know, we see. Have you ever played it?
Basketball? I played a little bit.
Only when Nuno challenges.
I played like one season of 9th grade B team.
I played.
They kind of said, "Hey, you probably don't need to do this. You're not a 3-sport guy. You're barely a 2." So it was. I loved it too. Like you go play in the playground with your buddies, and you think you're pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to play it in high school. I'm not going to be a 6'1" at the time. I think I was 6'1". I grew a little bit. But I'm going to be a 6'1" post. I think we played Nuno's high school LSIC, and I realized, this high school basketball's not going to be my thing.
Do you think Nuno was on that team?
Hell no.
He was on the powerlifting team.
Huh?
He was doing powerlifting.
He probably played like high like some sport they did. Like, no, Nuno. I've seen and look. I'm not going to get drawn into a one-on-one basketball game at 50 years old.
He tried for a lot of.
I heard what he did to Nick, and
Nick,
it's despicable.
It is despicable. Nick, I don't understand why you didn't foul him harder. Like, at least make him. If he's going to beat you, and he's going to come on and talk about it. And I love the way he talked about it. It was like, it was not a big deal, but Okay,
he lived.
Oh, God. He was eating at him.
He's been telling his kids.
All right, we come back more with Luch.
Never forget Logan Lee ducked Gabe in a free throw shooting contest for years.
There's no win for Logan Lee there. No win for Logan. We come back more with Luch on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, rolling toward the bottom of the hour. TexAgs Live presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. One more quick segment here with Billy Liucci. We'll go out on the phone.
Done, post, boom, ask Liucci. Zane and I will be doing that today.
Okay, got John Pugliese coming on the phone on the other side. And we'll continue our conversation about Aggie basketball. Interesting name.
Luke said you're a hippo.
Why do you – no. Luke –
you said you're
has
a hippo.
A twisted brain. And Drew,
you said you're
no,
hippo
I said
mode.
I go hippo mode.
Well, you can't go hippo
Kind of like
mode.
sicko mode, but like the younger brother no one wants.
Very interesting.
Struggling.
I know.
I was gassing him up during the break.
Yeah,
but
I'm better off air.
Yeah. No, you weren't that good. I was just pretending. I was just doing that to keep you going and get under his skin. But yeah, you sucked all the way.
Interesting name goes into the transfer portal. While you were talking at the end of last segment, I saw it come across the Twitter machine. But Amari Niblack, tight end at Texas, who was originally or was at Alabama before. Holman Wiggins will have some background with this guy. There was still an avenue for A&M to add a more receiving threat at tight end if they felt like they need it. This could be a name to watch.
Well, I thought, obviously the guy out of Purdue was a
Max Clare,
major target and ended up at Ohio State. And I mean, he was probably the most coveted in the country. And part of that reasoning was can you get that true pass catching weapon at that position? I think they added a couple of terrific blockers, guys that could also catch the football. Again, I don't want to.
My most interesting guy is Berkshire.
Yeah, I know, and I know what you've heard and I've heard about in terms of look, this guy's like an NFL body, and I know Michael Riley came in here and everybody was talking about what a great personality and a big dude he was at the position. So I think they're really upgrading. But yeah, if you ended up adding somebody like Niblack, and I do think you'll see the Aggies be a real player here. I fully expect that. And he was kind of one that I was, thank you.
What do you think of Richard's beard currently?
It's fine.
Okay.
I mean, I'd love to give him a hard time. I mean, again, I'm very slow to, you got to be bad on the facial hair front for me to be able to make fun of you. Just I don't know what to call it.
Mustachelist.
Yeah.
Mustache evangelist.
It's got to be. Anywho, here's the thing. I think Niblack, he is one of those type guys. I wonder what I haven't read it yet. I wonder what the Texas people are talking about that loss. Are they downplaying it? Because this was a guy they were throwing a party for a year ago when they got him.
Well, Gunnar Helm was outstanding.
Yeah. This happens. We throw parties when you get excited. Like A&M was throwing a Micah Hudson party a couple weeks ago, but they threw a party when they got him from Bama last year, and he played, I think, early. Gunnar Helm was exceptional. We talked about him earlier. He's one of the best tight ends in college football, probably one of the top 3 at worst. So it probably cut into a lot of his playing time. But what would his situation have been this year at Texas? That's what I'd want to look into.
Caught 20 balls at Bama in 2023 for 327 yards and 4 touchdowns.
And was that as a freshman?
That was as a redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
So last year at Texas only had only had 5.
Sign me up.
Yep.
And I don't care what he was going to do at Texas this year, but I know they lost Helm, they lost Juan Davis. Those were the 2 guys to me that were playing at the position for them this year. So you would have thought that he'd factor in. I know they signed the guy that A&M wanted in Nick Townsend. I don't think you automatically put him over. I think he would have factored in. I could be told I'm wrong on that, but it doesn't matter. What's his height and weight?
6'4", 240.
Yeah, he's a very athletic, really long-armed target. You watch him, he looks like maybe even a little taller and rangier than that. So yeah, I would love to see A&M add a player like that to that room. I actually think, because we're sitting here talking about receivers and yada, yada, yada. What we're talking about is the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about Marcel, and then you add, you go and add a veteran quarterback like a Zeno, and you add these receivers. What you're talking about is Mike Elko and Colin Klein trying to improve the passing game. And you also do that tremendously if you can find a pass-catching weapon at tight end. And
I think Keati Armstrong could end up being that guy.
Oh, yeah.
But it's probably too soon. And so I liked it. Like, they're going to go after a guy like that to maybe pair with Theo or Burt, whatever. I just like completes the room to me.
And you could almost view a guy like that as an extra receiver. He's going to line up differently, and sometimes you might line him up as an inside receiver, like a big body. But I mean, you're just talking about upgrading your passing game, upgrading the targets that Marcel Reed has to throw to. You can't convince me that if they were able to go get Niblack, that would not upgrade their receiving core. I don't care if he's going to start at Texas next year or not see it down. That's the one thing we have to realize, like, that doesn't matter. It's that if they took him, that means Holman Wiggins, who knows him and watched him catch 20 passes at Alabama as a redshirt freshman, and Mike Elko and Colin Klein saw him as a guy like, he can help us this year. And portal spots are precious. There is still a finite number of players are going to have on this football team. So I fully expect them to pursue him.
All right. Thanks, dude.
All right.
Ask Liucci later on today.
Who are your predictions? NFL this weekend.
I can't.
We done with the show? Can we go a little?
Well, I got Pugliese.
Okay, go ahead. Give me your picks.
I like
pick 4 teams.
I'm going to pick with my heart, not my head. I'm going to pick Houston, upset Kansas City. I think Baltimore beats Buffalo. I think Baltimore beats Houston, goes to the Super Bowl on the other side. I think Detroit wins, and I think
Philly or the Rams.
I think Philly wins
at Philly.
Yeah. And then I like Detroit against Baltimore in the Super Bowl. You talk about two teams that physical.
The only thing I disagree with you on
probably Houston.
Is Houston. And I get it. Houston can upset Kansas City.
If I had to pick a AFC team to play as a Houston fan, I know it's crazy to say I'd pick Kansas City over the way Buffalo and Baltimore are playing.
Yeah. And what's going on in the NFL right now? And I think this is applicable. Like, you have to look at this college football-wise, too. I know Riley Leonard, and you don't think of Riley Leonard and Will Howard as elite, but there weren't many elite QBs. But look at the NFL right now. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, who played at an MVP level, and Jalen Hurts, who had probably his best year of his career until he got hurt, and Matthew Stafford, who's a Hall of Famer, probably should be. NFL's quarterback league, man, way more so than college too. But anyway, it's a quarterback league. But I will say, football is still a quarterback game, and that's why the SEC wasn't what it normally is this year. If you want to dive into everything else, and I know the portals had an effect and and NIL, but it is a quarterback-driven game, and I still think Mahomes playing at home in the elements, which is just going to be freezing cold, but I'll take them in a tight win over the Texans. So I agree with all your picks right down to it.
All right. Thanks, Luch. When we come back, John Pugliese, break down A&M LSU tomorrow night on the Hardwood at Reed Arena. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live. Getting closer and closer to the weekend. We are going out to the Boss Firearms Hotline, going to talk to great friend of the program, basketball mind, basketball savant, Mr. John Pugliese. Continue to break down the Aggies and LSU Tigers coming to you from Reed Arena tomorrow night. Pugs, I appreciate your time this morning. Where are we at on this Aggie basketball team now at 2-2 without Wade Taylor?
I mean, 2-2 without Wade Taylor is a plus. But I also, Ronnie, I think we have to start with Aggie basketball in the way that it should be thought about as an SEC school that's top 15 in the country. 2-2 without Wade Taylor is fine, but we still have to win games. Just because you are missing your star. Yes, you are missing your ball-dominant guard. Yes, you are missing your playmaker. And you are an SEC program that has to have a next-man-up mentality, and they've got to win some games here, even games that are toss-ups, right? That look like head-to-head comparisons and all those things might favor the other team, especially on the road, whatever that looks like. You gotta start thinking about this team in ways that, we're 2-2, but we should be 3-1. Why? Because we're top 15 in the country.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, I feel good about being 2-2, Bronny, given the opponents that they played to start the year in SEC play, given the injury to Wade Taylor, and got to win some games now.
Yeah, I had two, very novicely minded basketball opinions yesterday that I ran by Logan Lee, and I'll run them by you. I think for right now, it just seems to me that A&M on the offensive end, they can do more to run the offense through the low post and Pharrell Payne, getting him more touches. I think could be an efficiency improver on the offensive end because it looks like that the ball tends to get stuck at whoever's playing the one. The ball's getting stuck there without Wade, whether it's Zurich, Phelps, or Manny. You're getting a lot of dribble to late in the shot clock, kind of force bad shots. Pharrell Payne's playing out of his mind, and he's been really efficient when he's been in the game and gotten a bunch of touches. Is that something that you could see Buzz and them doing, or do you think the way out from the offensive efficiency standpoint is somewhere else?
Listen, we haven't seen an offense at A&M run through a low post threat since Tyler Davis and that team with Robert Williams and those guys. And Billy Kennedy is second to last year at A&M. Tyler Davis was a focal point of that offense. Everything ran through Tyler Davis. They haven't had that since. So, and college basketball is a different game than it even was, 6 years ago, right? So it's more difficult to run an offense through a low post guy in the way that we think of when we think of back to, the 90s or early 2000s, right? This is a guard-oriented game. This is a game where the ball is always in a guard's hand because every offensive possession seems like it starts with a pick and roll, as opposed to finding ways to get touches to your low post guy and playing out of the low post. You just don't see that as much anymore, right? There's a few teams across the country who can do that a little bit, but it's still a ball-dominant, guard-dominant game. And so, yeah, you can. Pharrell Payne shooting 69% from the field. So, yes, Ronnie, you can call yourself novice or anything you want, but when you look at the stats don't lie, right? They tell us what we need to know based on the way we read them. So, the data supports getting the ball in Pharrell Payne's hands more, getting him touches with 2 feet in the paint, allowing him to go to work. But because everything they've done over the course of the last couple of years under Buzz Williams has been about the ball being in Wade Taylor's hands or the ball being in guard's hands, it's a hard switch to make.
Sure.
Right? You're asking someone, for a football analogy, right? You're asking someone who's going to go from focusing on the running game and winning the line of scrimmage and playing between the tackles to go into, the run and gun or, 4 wide or whatever. I'm not a football guy, so that's not my deal, but you know what I'm saying,
yeah.
Right? So that's what we're asking them to do, and that can be very difficult. So instead, what do we rely on? On the ball to be hands of Phelps, which was a great transition from the ball being a lot of the time in Manny's hands. A couple games ago, the ball's been in Phelps' hands more. You rely on him being a volume shooter. He already was, but now he's taking more 3-point shots, and he's looking for his own a little earlier in the shot clock. And then you're looking, in my estimation, the second option has to be you need to get in more two-man game stuff with Burrell Payne. And, quite frankly, 26 points and 8 rebounds sounds like a great night from your front court four. You're not going to win in the SEC with 8 rebounds from your four bigs. You're not going to win in the SEC with your starting power forward, Henry Coleman, having 2 points and 0 rebounds in 19 minutes, right? So what are we looking to do instead? How do they these minutes? And are they playing for the second half of the SEC season right now? One that A&M has, from over the last course of the last couple of years, A&M has always thrived in the second half of SEC play. So is Buzz trying to think of, okay, what's my rotation going to look like in a couple games when we got these teams the second time around? He's already looking at that, maybe making some adjustments based on that here in the future and kind of figuring out what he's got right now.
John, from your experience coaching basketball, being around the game, how do you explain to the average fan, kind of what A&M's going through at the free throw line and how mental it can be, not just for an individual, but for a team? Because the Alabama game's the perfect exemplar of that. Is if A&M just, if they miss 8 or 9 free throws instead of double digits, then they win the game.
I coached a team. Again, we're talking different levels. But when I coached at Wagner College, which is a small Division I school in NEC, right? We went 23-8 my second year there, and we shot about 68% up from the line. And we had good shooters. We had dudes who could go get a bucket. We scored, the ball well. We played in transition. We did a lot of really good things. But there was such a mental hurdle at the free throw line that it becomes, how much time do you spend on it? How much time do you spend talking about it? Try and put your guys in a position to hit clutch free throws in practice, to finish off drills with free throws, right? To win a small sided game, you gotta hit a free throw to end the game, that kind of stuff. You try and put your guys in those positions, but then when the lights go on, it's a different story. So while that line hasn't been great, right? We're still shooting 68% from the line, almost 9%. And with opponents shooting almost 75% from the line, we still have made, it's very close. We've almost made more than our opponents have attempted. Last couple games, right? Alabama wasn't great from the line. And then Kentucky, right, 16-25. That's a lot of points on the table for those two games. You win the Bama game if you hit, 5 or 6 more free throws, because that's possessions that you can't get back. And so, I think you talk about it, but you certainly can't belabor the point. It's a mental game now. It's like the kicking game in football, right? I try and give analogies as much as I can for our fan base, but it's like the kicking game in football, right? It's like Justin Tucker from the Ravens, right? Mm-hmm. This is all these field goals that he usually makes, right? The same idea. You've got pretty good shooters who just aren't stepping up and knocking them down. You hope that more of the right shooters get to the line and more of the right shooters are taking those shots at crunch time, and that these guys step up and they forget about the mental side, but that's easier said than done.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you can make a thing, right? Like if you can over talk about it and make it even worse than it actually is, sometimes you're better off by not belaboring it every single day. So I like that, what you said. Last thing, we'll get you out of here, Pugs. It's just a 30-second, 45-second breakdown of what you think or what you're expecting to see on the floor tomorrow night against LSU.
Yeah. You've got to control Cam Carter and Jordan Sears, right? They get to line more than anyone on their roster. They're both ball-dominant guards. Combined, they take twice as many shots as anyone else on the LSU roster. And when 50% of those guys' shots are threes, which is the case here, there has to be a focus on finding them early in transition. I call it getting hands-on, right? It's like the offensive line, right? the offensive line gets their hands on the defensive line early, they can push, they can move, that line. The same idea, defensive transition, right? Can you slow them down, use some pressing, use some of their zone stuff to slow them down, find them early in transition, and make them think twice about taking that early three-point shot. You got to remember who Matt McMahon is as a coach. He's the same guy who had a ton of success at Murray State with guys at the guard position, right? John Morant, perfect example, who had the green light to do what they wanted to do. Everything's run through the guard. So, and he's got some guards who come off the bench. Victorious Miller is a McDonald's All-American who's played in every game and is kind of coming into his own. You've got to find these guys when they come off the bench, and you've got to keep them thinking twice, and then control the glass. A&M has to get to the offensive glass. A&M has to limit LSU's second chance opportunities, and then they've got to run, and they've got to find early points, transition points early in the shot clock, and set up their defense. A turnover for A&M is a basket for LSU.
All right, Pugs. Appreciate your time, dude. We always look forward to your analysis.
Ronnie.
All right, that's John Pugliese. We come back. We'll close the show, get you ready for the weekend. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
I wanted something good. Instead, you're playing Bob Marley.
I'm getting ready to go on vacation.
Oh, let's go smoke some weed in Jamaica, man.
Billy's back. We got about a minute and 45. I'm not going to Jamaica. And I don't smoke weed. We got
what you do on the island stays on the island. I'm not asking.
No, I got asthma. I would be choked up.
You'd
days.
get the like, what do they call?
I've never
like the
done it, and I've never had the
scaries.
desire to do it.
Total anxiety attack. Oh yeah, tweaker. The guy like. I mean,
what does that mean?
They handed.
He's like, guys, wait,
heart's
guys.
racing. I'm going into ketosis.
I would love to go into ketosis. Yeah, lose a little bit of this weight. Billy's back.
I wanted to mention something that came up on Twitter a minute ago.
You got a minute.
Brent Zwerneman announced, and I want to have him on next week. Actually, talk about it because Brent's got some great stories and retiring from the Chronicle. Congratulations, BZ. Been a friend of mine from people think, we competed for stories all these years, and Brent had some of the biggest A&M stories, out there for a long time. And I've, he and I talked, he called me and told me about this a while back and, kept a lid on it for his announcement today. And just one of my longest standing, closest friends in this business, one of the best dudes. And congrats, BZ and Crystal and the kids are going to be thrilled to have him back. And really, like, if you
probably spend more time at a ballpark now,
for sure. And if you'd have grown up, if I'd have been a kid in Houston when he and I both Houston Chronicle, probably Houston Post guys, if you'd have grown up back then, we would have been reading Brent Zwerneman. So,
all right, congrats,
buddy.
BZ. All right, we're out of here. We'll see you next Monday. Richard in the host chair. Who knows when Dave will be back? We'll be back. For Billy Liucci, I'm Ryan Brauninger, Luke Evangelos in the Angry Elephant Social Center. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.